I had a moment on Shabbos where I was in Milwaukee. My sister was visiting. My sister and brother-in-law were visiting in Milwaukee, visiting with my father, and I went up so we could all be together. And we ended up going over to the Twerskys. So it was actually Rabbi Ben Zion Twerski's house, Rabbi Ben Zion and his wife. But the rabbi and Rebbitzin were there. Rabbi Michal and Fagi, Rebbitzin Fagi were there. And we went with my father. Our family just went for a few minutes to hang out with them. And then while we were there, Rabbi Twersky says, I want Yoshua to tell us a Dvar Torah. So I'm there with Rabbi Twersky and Rebbitzin Twersky, Rabbi Ben Zion Twersky, also Mordechai Twersky, one of his brothers. And there are other people there, plus my father, my sister, everybody that. And he just asked me on the spot. We weren't even planning on being there.
No pressure.
And no pressure. And so my mind is obviously it goes blank and then is racing and then goes blank. And but finally I thought of something and so I told him over something that I told over I said it at his house, at the rabbi's house, to a group of people. And I said it in front of the rabbi. And I said, I've been saying this to other people for the past 30 years. And I always tell them that I said this in front of Rabbi Twersky, and he didn't disagree with me.
What's wrong?
But you never actually said you agree with me. So the way I tell it to people is I said it over in front of Rabbi Twersky, and he didn't disagree with me. So then I got to tell that over, and then his family all turned to Rabbi Twersky. So do you agree with him? And he said, yes, I agree with him. So I had a moment where I got to say over something and get him to actually agree with it.
So now you change what you say. You don't say, and he didn't disagree. That's
now
it.
I get to tell the whole story. It takes 15 minutes just to tell over the whole thing, which is a plus, I think, to be able to have something that takes 15 minutes instead of just whenever you get to add a layer to a story. But that was a cute moment. And it's obviously a deep experience to get to spend the time with my father and my sister and other family. But that was a moment. And it was related to the Parsha. That was the best thing. It was related to the Parsha. In fact, I think it must have been the same Parsha, because I remember I used an example from this Parsha. So it must have been this Parsha. So that was the thing on top of the whole thing. Okay, somewhere over here. Okay. Positive commandment 171 for those keeping track. That is that he, God, commanded us to give over. This doesn't mean give over a half shekel. You're supposed to give exactly a half shekel, but you're giving it over a half shekel coin each year. And that is his, may he be blessed, saying, and a man shall give a ransom for his soul to the Lord. And is saying, this they shall give everyone that passes among them that are numbered, etc. The regulations of this commandment have already been explained in Tractate Shkolim, and it is explained there that this is only practiced in the presence of the temple. So technically, this law only applies when there is a temple, a Beit HaMikdash. They used this money to purchase the public offerings that were brought on behalf of the people during the year. During the year, the activity in the Beit HaMikdash around the altar that was in the courtyard was animal sacrifice, grain offerings, and libations, which were liquid, which would either be wine or oil. That's what's happening at the altar. Some of that is happening on behalf of the entire Jewish people, and some of that is happening on behalf of individuals. So for instance, the sacrificial day begins in the morning with the tamid offering. Tamid means always, or usually in the Torah it means regularly. So it is a offering that's brought every day in the morning, every single day. Doesn't matter if it's a weekday or if it's Shabbos or if it's Yom Kippur. It's brought every single day. It's the first offering in the morning. It was a lamb, and it's brought together with libations. And then there is a tamid in the afternoon, and that is generally the last offering. It's not like on Pesach. The Pesach offering is brought after that, but generally it is the last offering of the day. So, and usually it's sometime like mid-afternoon when the tamid in the afternoon was brought. The tamid in the morning is brought at first light, and the tamid in the afternoon is like usually mid-afternoon that it was brought. Our prayers, our Shachris prayer, our morning prayer, and our afternoon prayers are said to correspond to the tamid in the morning and the tamid in the afternoon. So those are public offerings. Another example of a public offering is the Musaf offering. So on every Shabbos, on every new moon, on every Rosh Chodesh, and on every holiday, there are Musaf offerings. Those are called they're additional offerings. So that, depending on what day it is, they have different elements, but those are also public offerings. And then there's the Omer offering. There's the showbreads, the two breads that are part of the Shavuos offering. So those are all purchased. All those are purchased from the half shekel that we're having. That involves animals, involves wine and oil and flour, etc. That's all purchased from this. Also, the showbreads. Every week there are breads that are placed on the table inside of the building of the Beit HaMikdash. There's also incense, etc. So all of those, the incense, I'm pretty sure about the incense. I'm assuming it's also part of that. So they would all be bought with this half shekel. And so the actual hope is that the entire grouping of these half shekels would be given before Passover. So they start the call towards at the beginning of Adar, which is like a month and a half before Passover, and in order to start getting people to start gathering it, we actually have a custom to give a half shekel coin in sort of remembrance of what they used to do, and we do it on Erev Purim, on the 14th of Adar, on the 13th of Adar is when we do the half shekel thing. There's actually a haftorah that continues to be read, which is a special haftorah called shkalim, and we read about this command. And again, that was meant to, even having that as the haftorah, it makes it a special Shabbos with the focus on the half shekel, so that people would know in the various communities to get this going. So we continue to have this, even though we haven't had a Beis Hamikdash for 2,000 years. We continue to have this built into our year, a reminder to bring this half shekel. It is called a kofar, which is a atonement. So just going to look this up for a second. It's in the Torah portion of Ki Sisa. Instead of taking us just there, I'd rather look this up. So in the verse in Ki Sisa, when it talks about this, initially it's actually talking about when you count the people. When you count the people, it says, when you take a census of the Israelite men according to their army enrollment, each shall pay God a ransom for himself on being enrolled, that no plague may come upon them through their being enrolled. So it sounds like that actually is talking about when you count the people to make sure to do it, but it seems like the word kofar is, what it means is that by doing it this way, you won't harm the people. That if you that whenever you count the people, there is a danger that can happen. So therefore, the actual language again was, when you take a census of the Israelite men according to their army enrollment, each shall pay a ransom for himself on being enrolled, that no plague may come upon them through this being enrolled. This is what everyone who is entered in the record shall pay, a half shekel by the sanctuary weight. Everyone who's entered in the records from the age of 20 and up shall give Hashem's offering. The rich shall not pay more. The poor shall not pay less than half a shekel when you give God's offering. And then again, they call it a kofar or kippurim. You shall take the expiation money from the Israelites and assign it to the service of the tent of meeting. It shall serve the Israelites as a reminder before God, as an expiation for your persons. So here it sounds like also the fact that it's going to be used in the Mishkan affects some kind of reminder of us and an expiation, some kind of kippurim. So this term kofar seems to be related to the possibility of counting the people with these half shekels, and also to the sacrifices that are going to result from these offerings. That one of the primary purpose for sacrifices is to, in some ways, use that term expiate. The term redeem is I think almost a related word in this context. That there's something that requires a kind of renewed closeness. So I'm going to suggest the following: that the word we use for sacrifice is korban. Korban doesn't really mean sacrifice. Korban means something that brings you closer, like from the word karov, close. So it implies that you're feeling distant, and this is going to help you come closer. Now, there's a natural distance that can creep into relationships, and then there's a distance that can happen because of an event, or because of something somebody did. So, but there seems to be an assumption that a relationship is not going to remain close with a kind of ultimate closeness always. That there's a kind of ebb and flow in relationships. In the rabbinic sort of mystical term is ratzo v'shov. It's like you're moving. It's like you're running towards and you're going away. You're running towards and you're going away. So it's that kind of emotion. So relationships have that, and so would a relationship with God. So there's a kind of built-in maintenance in the relationship with God to sort of respond to the ebb and flow, or at least to manage the ebb and flow. So there needs to be regular points of contact between God and the Jewish people. And those regular points of contact have to be somehow engaging this ebb and flow. So there are regular korbanot. The regular korbanot are there to manage the natural ebb and flow in the relationship, to make sure. It would be like telling a couple you should always have a date night or something. In other words, don't just take for granted that you're always going to maintain the same kind of closeness. This for those of us who are who don't have children in the house, maybe we're always hanging out together. Maybe you don't need that date night anymore, but you could imagine during the work, if people are engaged in the working world and other kind of stuff going on, or if they have children in the house, so you could see that you'd have to be reminded, have a date night, or so that you can sort of manage that natural ebb and flow of the relationship. Then there are korbanot that are designed to respond to particular special events. Like for a couple, it could be an anniversary. So you have that kind of those kind of korbanot too, that are sort of managing, because those aren't part of just the everyday ebb and flow. They're supposed to have special features, special nature. And then there'll be korbanot if there was some kind of transgression. In other words, there was some kind of breach of trust. So if there's a breach of trust in the relationship. So now there could be a real chasm that you have to overcome. So that might be sin offerings or guilt offerings. They're there to manage the aspects of the relationship. For a couple, there'd be the argument or something, or maybe there was an actual breach of trust between them, and now they have to overcome that. So the notion of korban, of having regular devices to bring close, that's sort of built into the whole system. And so is kapara. Kapara is another aspect. Maybe it's connected to what we'll call the breach of trust in some people's minds, but it's not only that. There's also regular kapara, expiation, because there are regular atonement. So, because even built into the natural rhythm of relationships, there's times when you need to atone. The tone of atoning is, or the depth of the atoning is would obviously be different if you've really done something egregious, but even in the regular everyday working of things. So therefore, like for instance, in the Amida, we have let's say the weekday Amida, it's said 6 days a week. In that weekday Amida that said 6 days a week, 3 times a day, we ask God to forgive us. It's built into the Amida. This is not with an asterisk where you ask God to forgive us in case if you did something wrong, then insert this. It doesn't say that. It's a regular part of the Amida, and by the way, there are those who point out, you even say this right after Yom Kippur. In the Ma'ariv, in the evening prayers, right after Yom Kippur, you're already asking him for forgiveness again. This is a kind of asking forgiveness that sort of parallels the korban. This is something where it's part of the maintenance of the ebb and flow. And even there's always something we're doing imperfectly. There's a quarterback named Brock Purdy who's been getting a lot of attention. He's the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. And he's got a great story. A lot of attention is being placed on him. But in this last week, he had a perfect passer rating. They call it a perfect passer rating. He had the highest passer rating you can get. They measure all sorts of elements of the game, and there's a certain score you can get. He got A+, 100. It's like he scored 100 on a test. So when one of the reporters, and I think this happened several times, reporters were asking him about it, he said, "There's still some plays I'd like to take back." It wasn't really a perfect game. It scores perfect, but it wasn't perfect. To me, that's where this kind of regular kapara fits in, and the regular korban fits in. Because you have a score, you've scored it perfect, but even within a game that was scored perfect, I know there were elements that I'd like to take back. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't truly perfect. They can't measure perfect, basically, I guess. But also, I think he or others would admit that there's no expectation that you can get to perfect. And even in your best game, there's going to be some things that you would take back. So it's that that's where I'm assuming that this is in the stuff that's fixed. When you have a fixed kofar, so either you could say that this is just to protect them from the evil eye or something that could happen once you're doing something that is sort of counting people, then you could say that directly, that this is a kind of antidote for what could end up being a trouble. But that's one layer. But there's another layer of looking at this, that this is a fixed kind of atonement into the system, and we have other ones like that Slach Lanu prayer, and there's many other prayers that we have that are asking God for forgiveness for things, but it's a different tone than Yom Kippur, and even Yom Kippur is going to be a different tone from somebody who's really trying to make up for some bad behavior, something that they're really doing what we would call tshuva. Maybe they have been distant. Maybe they've left God. Maybe they converted. Maybe they or just drifted away entirely from a relationship with God, and now they're trying to fix that. That's a completely different tone than of a different degree of asking for forgiveness, of trying to come closer, of expiation. That's happening on a completely different level than even Yom Kippur, which is on a different level than some of these other fixed Kippurim or Kofrim, and the Karbanos on the other side. Okay, so that is that. And now we're moving away from holidays. This is a big one. They're all big. They're all important.
Rabbi Ken?
Yeah.
I could grab my sitter. Aren't there some people that do the al-Kates on weekdays?
Yes. Al-Kates on weekdays? No, there's somebody, Nusach Sfard does the Yud Gimel Mido, the Hashem Karachim V'Chanun. The vidui. It is a vidui.
Yeah, right.
It is vidui,
right.
but not the al-Kates. The al-Kates, I don't know of anybody who does al-Kates on weekdays. There is a custom to do the al-Kates. A groom and a bride do the al-Kates at mincha before their marriage. And other than that, I don't know of another time. We do Avinu Malkeinu on fast days and things like that, which is sort of like, okay, because it's Avinu Malkeinu Chatana within that. We've sinned before you. We've actually been doing it after Shachris and Mincha since October 7th. I don't know what day, October 8th or 9th. We've been doing it in our show for Shachris and Mincha. We've been doing Avinu Malkeinu, which is similar to Al-Khet, but I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think people do Al-Khet, but I look forward to being corrected about that.
No, I had the wrong term in mind.
Right, the vidui.
The vidui.
Yeah, yes. Nusach Sfard, like Hasidim and Sfardim, do it at Chakras for when you do Nefilas Apayim, when you fall on your face. Tachnun, what we call Tachnun. Yeah. Okay. That is that he commanded us to listen to all of the prophets, to do all that he commands, even against a commandment or a group of these commandments. And this is on condition that this be temporary and that he not command a permanent addition or eradication, as we explained in the introduction of our composition in the commentary of the Mishnah. The verse in which the command appears is his saying, to him shall you listen, which I think is in Re'eh. And the language of the Sifrei is, to him shall you listen, even if he tells you to transgress one of the commandments of the Torah temporarily, listen to him. And one who transgresses his word is liable for death at the hands of heavens, and that is his may be exalted, saying, and if anybody does not listen to the words of the prophet who speaks in my name, I will require it of him. And it has already been made clear in Sanhedrin, in the case of 3, their execution is at the hands of heavens. One who transgresses a statement of a prophet who violated his own statement, and one who suppresses his prophecy. It is all from his saying, do not listen to the words of the prophet who speaks. Read into it, who shall not voice. And the regulations of this commandment have already been explained at the end of Sanhedrin. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. This commandment to listen to the prophets, what are the prophets, etc. I'm pretty sure we're not going to be meeting on Wednesday. I'm traveling to New York, and I'm pretty sure I'll not be able to meet on Wednesday, but we will meet tomorrow, Be'ezrat Hashem. Our learning today was in the merit of the speedy and safe return of the hostages, the healing for the wounded, of the comforting for the bereaved, of the protection of everyone in Eretz Yisrael, for our protection, and may Mashiach Tzidkenu come b'mehera b'yameinu. You all guys.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Bye-bye, Rabbi. Tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.